Back on Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Head to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta in the search browser, find our page, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment. Of course, free and available all your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, Odyssey, whatever ones you like out there. Give us a 5-star review, and of course, give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. Oh, to be young and optimistic, right? Remember a few weeks ago when Olamide Zaccheaus had said that, he thought the Falcons could be a playoff team and this, that, and the other. Well, the latest guy to jump on that bandwagon is tight end Kyle Pitts, who told The Athletic, quote, "I do think we're going to contend and be able to fight for the playoffs and maybe the Super Bowl. It's a new year. I don't think about the past and negative things." And also he said that he thinks about proving the doubters wrong, quote, "every day," unquote. Okay. I mean, here's the thing, right? Do these guys have to kind of go over the top and all that? No, they don't. They could temper their expectations and say, look, we're trying to just get better every. And I know people won't like this answer either. If the player comes out and says, we're just trying to get better every day, right? Trying to give 1,000% every day, one day at a time, one step in front of that. I get all that. Okay. All those cliches that we don't like out there, right? Am I like throwing my hands up about, oh, what's Kyle Pitts saying? No, I expect him to be optimistic. I mean, the hell do you play the game for if you're not optimistic, right? Now, is it realistic that the Falcons forget the playoffs? They're going to contend for the Super Bowl? Oh, Kyle Pitts is going to. No. Yeah, don't. Again, you can appreciate what he said and not believe a word of it. Like, those two things can both be true. I can appreciate being young and optimistic and thinking that you guys can do some things. And then on the other hand, I can also believe that there's not a chance in the universe that the Falcons are going to contend for the Super Bowl. Okay? Both of those things can be true, right? Both of those things can be true. It's great to be optimistic, not a chance in the world that it happens. But again, Kyle Pitts is supposed to be, one of the potential leaders on my team. He's obviously one of the young up-and-coming players in the league. He's one of the young stars on my team, right? On a roster that is very few people that we can identify and say, okay, is this guy a star? Is that guy a star? Oh, there's a star. Oh, we got one star here. Okay, we got a star there. Okay, very few people that you can tag that with. So for him to come out and say those things that, hey, we can contend, hey, we can potentially be a playoff team, maybe even the Super Bowl. Hey, I got no, again, hope springs eternal. I'd rather they say that, because here's the reality. So USA Today, if you saw, picked the Falcons to be 2-15. Oh, do you want to sit through a 2-15 season? I don't care what it means for the future of the franchise. I don't want to sit through a 2-15 season. I want to win football games. And guess who else wants to win? Guess who wants to win football games more than me and you? Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot, Arthur Blank. They didn't bring these guys in to just kind of vagabond their way through everything, just kind of kick the can down the road and hope for the best and hope and change. They all want to win. So I don't want to sit through 2-15. I'd much rather have my guys come out and say, hey, playoffs, hey, Super Bowl, and this, that, and the other, than say, well, we're just going to kind of, have to try to get through things. And we know we got challenges and this, that, and the other. No. And look, they know it. You don't lose Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and the core of your team from the last few years. And if Debo goes, another guy that you've lost from the core of your team from the last handful of years, right? They know that. They understand. They look around and say, hey, listen, we know we're different, but hey, let's be optimistic. You never know what can happen. They found a way to win 7 games last year when they probably had no business doing that. And I will tell you, their roster last year was worse than it was in Dan's final year. They had a worse roster than they did in Dan's final year, and they won more games. So I'm good with all of it. Hope springs eternal, right? That I expect my young players to say these kinds of things. And guys like Kyle Pitts want to win. All right, Kyle Pitts is not coming here hoping that Atlanta, in a decade from now, when he's past his prime or whatever, finally gets on a winning track. No, he wants to be part of an organization that builds something and gets back to its winning ways. Right? I mean, that's what you're hoping and looking for. Does that mean it's going to happen? No. Falcons aren't going to the Super Bowl. I don't think the Falcons are going to be a playoff team. I'll say again, if they win 5 or 6 games, I'll be happy. That's even better than 2-15. Look, ain't going to change my fandom, but the idea of sitting through a 2-15 season, like that's rough. Like that. And if that happens, if they drop 5 games year over year, you are at the bottom of the barrel. You are one of the true slugs of the NFL. There's no spinning it. I don't care what happened and why. Again, my football savant, Bill Parcells, always says, your record is what your record is. You are what your record is. If you're a 6-11 team, you're a 6-11 team. If you're 11-6, you're supposed to be 11-6. Your record is what it's supposed to be. If you're 2-15 in today's NFL in a competitive balanced league, you are one of the true slugs and bottom feeders and sludge and muck and mire and just, that nasty funk and everything that develops at the bottom of the lake and, the dredgings and all the muck and mire and seaweed and gunk and junk, right? You are one of those franchises at 2-15. Even at least at 5-6 wins, okay. If you're only a game or 2 worse than you were last year by losing your franchise quarterback, among other things, that's not terrible. But if you're 5 games less, because every game is supposed to be close for the Falcons, right? When I say, let me rephrase that. Every game in the NFL is supposed to be close. There are, times when there are big lines and there are potential blowouts and stuff like that. But there's a reason why the lines in the NFL, where most of the games week in and week out, aren't 10, 12, 14-point spreads. In college football, most every game you look at is a big spread game, especially in the early part of the season. Before you get into conference play, most every week, some team is favored by 50, 40, 30, 20. You don't see that in the NFL. It's supposed to be competitive, right? So when you do see a line of double digits, 10 or more, that's a big deal. You're like, oh, man, this looks like, is this really going to happen like this? So I got no problem with Pitts being optimistic, okay? I expect him to say that. And again, what is reality versus what these guys say? I want them to go in thinking that they're a playoff team. I want them to go in thinking that they can shock the world. And I hope they do. I'm telling you, and I've said this multiple times, so we'll just go ahead and make sure we draw a line in the sand. July 28th at 10:20 a.m., I'm saying that the Falcons are going to win 6 games. By the way, I said they'd be 7 wins last year. Did we nail that? Did we hit that on the head? My radio producer at the time, Jarvis Davis, and I both said they'd be a 7-win team. Did we hit that right? Just trying to remember back. You can maybe help me out on that. Oh, yeah, we did. That's right. Okay. So I'm sitting here now on July 28th saying that they are going to be a 6-win team. I hope I'm wrong in the positive direction. I hope they find a way to win 8 or 9 games. I hope they find a way to do that. I want to watch winning football. I hope I'm not wrong that they are one of the worst rosters, if not the worst roster in the NFL, and they really are a 2-15 football team. Because if you're 2-15 and you've had 2 high draft classes, you ain't fixing that, brother, in just a year or 2, brother. You ain't bouncing from 2-15 to 12-5 anytime soon. You're one of the real slugs of the universe. If you've had back-to-back drafts with an organization and it's netted you to the point where you're taking 2 wins, you're going to be the Detroit Lions. Remember we talked about how the Lions, they were the last team to draft 3 top 10 pass catchers. They were the last team to draft back-to-back top 10 pass catchers, but they went even more than that. They went 3 years in a row with top 10 pass catchers. And remember what I said? What were they 3 years after they drafted? When they went 3 consecutive drafts with a top 10 pass catcher, what were they 3 years later? They were 0-16 in the league. I don't think the Falcons are going to be that. I think the Falcons are a better organization, but I'll give Pitts credit. Hey, put it out there. If it happens, great. But I'm not expecting Super Bowl, but I love the young man's optimism through all of this. All right, when we come back, oh boy, maybe second base is becoming more of a priority for the Braves here at the trade deadline. We'll talk about that next. Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked on Sports Atlanta.